Hey folks, how you doing? This is Wayne S. Pierce for American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. Here on the 14th of November, 2017. Yeah, lots of things going on. Lots of stuff. For instance, let me look here. New York Times is reporting, as soon as I get the phlegmy stuff out of my throat, New York Times is reporting on the 13th of November 2017, Pam Bellick, thank you Pam, health section of New York Times. First digital pill approved to worries about biomedical big brother. For the first time, the Food and Drug Administration has approved a digital pill, a medication embedded in a sensor that can tell doctors whether and when patients take their medication. The approval, announced late on Monday, marks a significant advance in the growing field of digital devices designed to monitor medicine taking and to address the expensive, long-standing problem that millions of patients do not take drugs as prescribed. Experts estimate that so-called non-adherence or non-compliance to medication costs about $100 billion a year, much of it because patients get sicker and need additional treatment or hospitalization. Quote, when patients don't adhere to lifestyle or medication that are prescribed for them, there are really substantive consequences. There are really substantive consequences that are bad for the patient and very costly, said Dr. William Schrank, Chief Medical Officer of the Health Plan Division of the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And that goes on. We're looking at Big Brother, folks. We're looking at the idea that you're not going to get around certain elements of life, such as your doctor telling you what to do, when to do it, why to do it, what medications to take, what lifestyle to have, all of that, right? But then again, you have to ask yourself why. Why are they prescribing so many drugs? Look at the drug usage, just prescribed drugs, in the last 40 years. Look at how many drugs have been prescribed by your own family doctor or another doctor that you've gone to. And look at all of that and ask yourself, is it really working? Because on average, when you take ibuprofen, okay, it doesn't immediately affect the problem you have. It takes a few days. So in that time, your body is building this dependence upon that drug. And so when you don't have it, or when you have been off of it for a while, and the doctor says, oh, you got this problem with your digestive system, here, take this, you'll be fine. Or you have a problem with your blood flow, or, some sort of other problem that they want to give you drugs for. Your body begins to build up the dependence for that drug. Okay? I say this because I'm a former alcoholic and drug abuser from many, many years ago. I've been clean and sober for almost 30 years. So I understand this quite intimately. And when when your body builds up through external ways of building up the immunity to some of these problems that you're having, or exercise, good diet, good health, this kind of thing. When you start to do that, I don't care how old you are, when you start to do that, your body changes in a lot of ways. And therefore, your body does not require those drugs. Now, that's my unprofessional medical opinion, but I can tell you this much. You might want to go find out on your own. I spent too many years looking at what the effects are on your body from certain prescribed big pharma drugs. And guess what? Yeah, not good. Why do you think your doctor tells you don't take ibuprofen or acetaminophen or whatever the hell it is for over 2 weeks? Why do they prescribe to you at least a 30-day regimen of pills or whatever? Why do you think they do that? Because they know that the body, builds up that dependence for it. So therefore, and the side effects are like tragic in some cases, because then you got to take a pill to counteract the pill that is causing the problem even worse in some other part of your body. And, so, I'm trying to get healthy, folks. I'm trying to, because I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 30 anymore, folks. So the body's beginning to tell me, dude, either slow down or you're going to wind up in a wheelchair, So it's just, and I don't have that much of an active life. I mean, my exercise is walking around the mall and, going to the stores and, stuff like that. But I need to start working out a little bit. Even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a day, I'm good. I used to go to the gym a lot. And then I stopped going, and, it's true. You stop going and things start to, gravity takes over, and, the food you eat begins to affect you, and, so, yeah. So this whole thing about digital pill, this says here, for the first time, the Food and Drug Administration has approved a digital pill, a medication embedded in a sensor that can tell doctors whether and when patients take their medication. To me, that's Big Brother. To me, that is, medical totalitarianism. If anybody's had, heart examination, I have, they give you this little monitor sometimes that you carry with you, and every so often you got to put it on your chest and let it do its thing, and then it transmits a signal to the hospital or to the doctor or whatever, or saves it within its own little device, and then you take it in and they look at it. I've had that done. So to me, this is Big Brother. This is just big pharma on steroids. No pun intended. It's just, Here's something else from the New York Times. Under new guidelines, millions more Americans will need to lower blood pressure. Gina Colada, 13th November 2017. Nation's leading heart experts on Monday issued new guidelines for high blood pressure, and that means tens of millions more Americans will meet the criteria for the condition and will need to change their lifestyles or take medicines to treat it. Under the guidelines formulated by the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology, the number of men under the age of 45 with a diagnosis of high blood pressure will triple, and the prevalence among women under 45 will double. Quote, "Those numbers are scary," unquote, said Dr. Robert M. Carey, professor of medicine at the University of Virginia and co-chair of the committee that wrote the new guidelines. The number of adults with high blood pressure or hypertension will rise to 103 million. That's a third of the population of America, folks, from 72 million under the previous standard. But the number of people who are new candidates for drug treatment will rise only by an estimated 4.2 million people, he said. To reach the goals, others may have to take more drugs or increase the dosages. You see what I'm saying? Few risk factors are as important to health. High blood pressure is second only to smoking as a preventable cause of heart attacks and strokes, and heart disease remains the leading killer of Americans. If Americans act on the guidelines and lower their blood pressure by exercising more and eating a healthier diet, or with drug therapy, they could drive an already falling death rate from heart attacks and strokes even lower, experts say. Take care of yourself, folks. Now, high blood pressure will be defined as 130 over 80 millimeters of mercury or greater for anyone with a significant risk of heart attack or stroke. The previous guidelines defined high blood pressure as 140 over 90. The first number describes the pressure of blood vessels on blood vessels when the heart contracts, and the second refers to the pressure as the heart relaxes between beats. This is going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast, as well as the other article I read some of before. That's on American Liberty Radio Podcast. Go check it out. Now, it's here's something else. Staying on the healthy side of things this morning. Daniel Victor, I should say. Thank you, Daniel. 13th November 2017, NewYorkTimes.com, NYTimes.com. If you're sick, stay away from work. If you can't, here's what doctors advise. For years, folks, before I say anything, before I go and read part of this article, let me tell you, when I was sick, I stayed home. That's just the way it is. If I went to work and I was sick, they would send me home. So my common sense kicked in and said, if I'm sick, I'm staying home, because if I'm sick, I can't work. You know what I'm saying? So my health is a hell of a lot more important than that damn job. Not only that, but, you know, there's other factors involved. But, you know, when Elle Frazier, a business operations assistant for the New Jersey Devils, came down with the flu just before Thanksgiving last year, she didn't think about staying home from work. The hockey team had home games on Wednesday and Friday that week, and she worried that her work would never get done without her, even if she had a 103-degree fever. Everybody thinks that. Oh, I'm the only one that can do this because nobody can do this, blah, blah, blah. Who trained you to do your job? I think they know your job. She toughed it out, altering between chills and sweats, falling asleep at her desk, wiping down every surface she touched, and insisting coworkers she was wearing mittens and handled tickets only because she was cold. On that Wednesday, Ms. Frazier, 23, worked from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day. She slept most of the day. The next day, she went back to work, just as sick as she was on Wednesday. Sure, she technically had a choice to use sick day and stay home, but that was not how she saw it. She thought she didn't really have a choice. Quote, nobody tries to convince you to go home because they knew in that situation they'd be doing the same thing, unquote, she said. Some people might read her account as a tribute to hard work and selflessness. Others might be aghast that she had risked exposing others to illness. It's clear on which side doctors came down. They say workers with the flu or cold should use sick days far more often than they do. Though millions of Americans don't get paid time off when they're sick, those who do have the option often don't take it. Dr. Pritish K. Tosh said, an infectious diseases researcher at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, says, quote, if it's bad enough that you're wondering if you should stay home, you should probably stay home, unquote. When and how long should you stay home? Remember, it's not just about you. So the rest of that is going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. Just FYI, a little side note here, folks. As you can see, I go to other places other than Infowars.com. I think there was one more I saw here. Here it is. Here it is. Kate Zernicki and Abby Goodenough, 8th of November, 2017, nytimes.com. In the health section, ending medical tax break could be a gut punch to the middle class. Susan Hollick tried to care for her husband at home after he was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia at the age of 69, but it got to the point where she couldn't take a shower for fear he would stray out of the house. So 18 months ago, she moved him to a memory care community near their home in Scottsdale, Arizona, which, like most long-term care, is not covered by Medicare. That, plus his other medical expenses, cost the couple $90,000 last year. Quote, these expenses place a huge burden on your retirement savings, unquote, said Mrs. Hollick, whose husband Harry managed operations for semiconductor companies. Quote, losing that tax deduction becomes a double burden, unquote. The Republican tax overhaul bill introduced in the House last week would eliminate that deduction, which allows people to itemize their federal income taxes to deduct medical expenses that exceed 10% of their total income. The change is part of a broad effort to rewrite the tax code in a way that Republicans say will be simpler and fairer. But while the party has framed its tax plan as a boon for the middle class, eliminating medical expense deduction would hit the middle class squarely, eliminating a source of relief that has helped millions of people cope with steep medical costs in a country without comprehensive universal health coverage. Republicans say the deduction affects relatively few people, 8.8 million out of 150 million taxpayers last year, and that the bill as a whole would benefit more families by lowering tax rates and increasing the standard deduction in lieu of itemizing. Quote, the bill helps Americans keep more of the money they earn for expenses that arise throughout their lives, such as medical bills, rather than providing a myriad of provisions that many Americans may only use once in their lifetimes and only if they go through the hassle and frustration of itemizing, unquote, said Lauren Aronson, a spokeswoman for the House Ways and Means Committee. This is going up on American Liberty Radio Network on the podcast page. American Liberty Radio Podcast on Facebook. I look at it this way. It's a good idea to have everybody covered, but since you can't and taxes would be tremendously, just completely out of range for anybody to pay, I would go as far as saying anyone who is young in terms of birth to at least 25, and anyone 55 or older who is not working, who is either not working or on SSI or anything like that, or disabled in some way, shape, or form. Anybody young, anybody old, all of that health care should be absolutely, positively, 100% free. I mean, well, who's paying for it? The middle class? No. What part of free don't you understand? Well, somebody's got to, pay for the hospital and the doctors and no. I've heard most doctors who are in the system are literally getting out of the system because Medicaid and Medicare don't pay them on a regular basis. Okay? That's what I hear. It's not a consistent form of payment to them, and therefore they have to find some other way to have an income in their offices. That's why you see a lot of doctor groups around, medical groups around with a bunch of doctors in there, and they all get, that all goes into one, the Medicare, Medicaid, that goes all into one, and they get paid from that. But it's not a consistent thing if you're an individual doctor with your own office. Okay, it's not a consistent thing. It's just inconsistent all the time. Most doctors are pulling out of those groups and going with a membership type of payment. You pay a doctor or 3 or 4, in a group. You pay that membership fee. You get all the help you need. And then whatever major thing happens, like hospitalization or operations or whatever, or, braces or whatever you need, that goes, you can just, they can use Medicare for that or Medicaid. Right? So, but the doctor himself gets paid. You know what I'm saying? So they're opting to do that. Some doctors are. Look that up. Go to startpage.com. and look up doctors' offices or groups, membership fees. Look at how the patients are, their patients are paying a membership fee for, or some sort of membership type fee to, alleviate some of that. You know what I mean? So, it just goes to help the doctor out. You're being helped by the doctor, and so they need to get paid. It's much like years ago when doctors used to make house calls. That was a free thing. They never got charged. Or at least that's what my mother said. Some doctors made house calls, and they never charged the family. It was just like, yeah, I'll come over. But now it's all about money. It's all about big pharma. It's all about big insurance. It's all about that, But, Anyway, one more article. Let's take a look at this. Nicholas Baccalar, New York Times, nytimes.com. Americans are putting down the soda pop. Yeah, aren't they? 14th of November, 2017. That's today, folks. Sugar-sweetened drinks are not as popular as they once were. According to a new study based on a continuing national health survey, 60.7% of children and 50% adults drank a sugary beverage on any given day in 2014, down from 79.7% of children and 61.5% of adults in 2003. The study published in the journal Obesity relied on a representative sample of 18,000 children 2 to 19 years old and 27,652 adults aged 20 to older. And they were asked about their beverage consumption over the past 24 hours: juice, milk, sugar, diet soda, coffee, tea, sports drink, water, and alcohol. Per capita consumption of all drinks declined. Children took in 312.6 drink calories a day in 2014 compared with 473.8 a day in 2003. So in 11 years, it dropped considerably, okay? Among adults, the figure was 341.1 calories in 2014 compared with 425 in 2003. Most of that decline was driven by a reduction in the number of people drinking sugar-sweetened beverages and lower consumption among those who did still drink them. Over the past 12 Over the 12 years of the study, milk was the favorite drink of children aged 2 to 11. Adolescents and adults still got most of their drink calories from sweetened soda and other sugary beverages. Coffee and tea consumption was steady, and alcohol consumption remained generally the same among adults over the years, with a slight but statistically insignificant increase in people over age 60. So that's going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. There are certain things that you have to know. There are certain things that you have to understand. There are certain things that you have to really pay attention to. And, well, let's just say some people don't pay attention too well. You know what I'm saying? They just don't get it, okay? And I really, I understand where people are coming from when they get a little, when they get distracted, when they have people telling them, oh, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't drink. You should, get healthier and all that. I understand all of that. I get that. It's right there. I know. I'm right there with you. I understand this. But the fact of the matter is people are addicted to what is in the sugar, what is in the drinks, what is in the alcohol, what is in all of these drugs that you're taking for various problems your body is having. When your body itself can and does fight it off naturally. And, why do you think you have to sleep at night? Because your body just gets tired and you have to rest. And it rejuvenates itself. Go look at some of the sleep studies that have been out there. Your body rejuvenates itself and builds up its immune system in rest. Okay, go look at it. It's right there. It's all there for you to look at. And so, in terms of our consumption of sugary, drinks and beverages, I'm sitting here drinking coffee, and I drink coffee every day. Some people drink it all day long, They're just like, oh, the pot of coffee's empty, got to make another one. Frank Zappa was like that. The late Frank Zappa, musician, was that way. He'd drink it all day long, So, but when you take in these huge amounts of sugary drinks, you're causing a lot of health problems to yourself. It's like putting dirty water in your radiator. It's going to mess up your engine, pretty much. I've done mechanic work in the past, folks. I know this. I've had to take radiators out many, many times. So, but anyway, get healthier. Get away from your house every once in a while. Go walk around the mall. I don't care if you buy anything at the mall or the stores or whatever. Just go walk. Just go do something. That's where I'm going after this podcast. Or I got some other things to do, but, I've got to. So, folks, this is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com, and I'm working on another backup site, so stay tuned for that. I'll give you more information on that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com.
Greetings, this is John LeBang of The John LeBang Show, and you're listening to the American Liberty Radio Network.
Late Night in the Midlands is for the people, by the people. No shady backroom deals here. We expose the truth, no matter who it leads to. We are an independent media who holds no one above the truth and have no alliances and no agenda. We offer our shows absolutely free because the truth will set you free, and we believe it should be free. However, we do ask that you donate, and we also offer subscriptions to help support our work and keep LNM on the air. We are not mainstream media that is owned and controlled by the New World Order. We are not alternative media that has been infiltrated with paid agents in wild fantasy. No. We are a free-thinking, free-speaking, tell it like it is, independent media that just happens to cover everything but not fall for anything. The best guests, the best information, late night in the Midlands, independent media exposing the truth, one show at a time.
Growing up terrestrial radio, the future is here. Destroying the liberal media, one truth bomb at a time. Independent media is shattering the liberal national security media into a million pieces. Their views of the world are based on the script the government gives them. Independent media seeks out and finds the truth and reports on what is truly going on behind the scenes. Support the truth and facts. Support independent media. Spreaker has it all. Set up your account and get ready to record podcasts or host live radio shows from your computer or mobile device. Spreaker's wide range of tools covers every step of the podcasting process, from simple recording and podcasting apps to analytics on your audience. You can upload files or migrate content over using the RSS importer. Host your show today. For more information, go to Spreaker.com. Hey folks, welcome back. This is the American Liberty Radio Network. The American Liberty Radio Network right here on Spreaker.com and on AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. And for your support of American Liberty Radio Network, which is very much appreciated, you can go to patreon.com/American Liberty Radio. Patreon.com/American Liberty Radio. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate that. 14th November 2017, Paul Joseph Watson, Infowars.com. While ISIS hijacks radio shows, Sweden declares milk to be a racist hate symbol. What? Excuse me? Let me read that again. While ISIS hijacks radio shows, Sweden declares milk to be a racist hate symbol. Quote, expressions of anxiety or fear, unquote, over immigration also hateful. A report by the Total Defense Research Institute commissioned by the government concludes that both milk and the OK hand sign are hate symbols that represent white supremacy. You can't make this stuff up, folks. The purpose of the report was to analyze internet comments to, quote, provide an insight into some digital environments whose common denominator is that they are all xenophobic, unquote. The other signs of hatred include using profanity as well as, quote, expressions of anxiety or fear, unquote, presumably over the thousands of Muslim migrants that pour into the country on a regular basis, while the Swedish government and its subsidiaries seem to be extremely concerned with milk being used as a symbol to radicalize racists. Actual ISIS recruitment propaganda is being broadcast on Swedish radio stations. Returning ISIS jihadists are also being given welfare and housing. Rapes are skyrocketing, and urban terrorism and bombings are now commonplace. One is tempted to say that this story could only come out of Sweden, but elements of the leftist media in America declared milk to be a symbol of racist hate months ago. Back in February, Mike, M-I-C, mic.com, Jack Smith wrote, quote, "Milk is a new creamy symbol of white racial purity in Donald Trump's America," unquote, because some trolls were seen chugging it as part of a troll of Shia LaBeouf's, quote, "He will not divide us," unquote, art installation. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf turned out to be a wackadoodle. Back in March, the Daily 49er published an op-ed by a student at the California State University who claimed that many Americans, quote, "have been so accustomed to hearing the benefits of milk that you probably didn't even realize the subtle racism hidden in our health facts," unquote. Samantha Diaz went on to ludicrously, there we go, if I can say the word correctly, assert that the federal government has encouraged people to make milk an essential part of their diet, quote, "despite the potential detriment it has on non-white people's health," unquote. According to the conversation, milk is, quote, "a symbol of neo-Nazi hate," unquote, because a handful of white supremacist forums have embraced it as that. The lack of self-awareness is in understanding that trolls deliberately embrace milk as a hate symbol as part of a prank in an attempt to force the media into treating such a ridiculous notion seriously seems to have been lost on most. This is going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. That was the whole article, folks. What I just read you, that was it. There's more, though. I mean, you gotta go check it out. There's a video in the article as well. I don't get it, folks. Maybe I'm overlooking something. Maybe I'm, just not, with it most of the time. When did milk become a racist symbol? When did milk become a racist symbol? And I know for a fact, because I've looked at some of the studies, that yes, milk, organic, non-GMO, straight out of the cow, processed a little bit, milk is really good for you. But the crap they're putting in the stores, don't even bother. Okay? Don't go to the farmer and just say, "Squirt that stuff in my glass." You don't want to do that. It has to, there's a little something that has to go on between the cow and you consuming it. Okay? So, that's what my daddy told me when he grew up on a farm in Michigan. So, mainstream media. Trump should lose ability to order nuclear strike. MSM wants to pull constitutional powers away from the president. Now, whoa, hey, time out. MSM wants to pull constitutional powers away from the president. They have... Let me go on. Clifford Cunningham, Infowars.com, 14th of November, 2017. A former Secretary of Defense acknowledged cabinet officials would be legally unable to stop President Trump from ordering a nuclear strike, much to the chagrin of Politico, The Hill, several Democratic members of Congress, and even one Republican. Bill Perry, who served as Secretary of Defense under Bill Clinton, dashed the hopes of many opponents of President Trump who hoped their Secretary of Defense James Mattis or Secretary of State Rex Tillerson could somehow counteract an order calling him for a nuclear strike. Quote, "The order can go directly from the president to the Strategic Air Command. The defense secretary is not necessarily in that loop. So, in a 5 or 6 or even 7-minute kind of decision, the Secretary of Defense probably never hears about it until it's too late," unquote, he explained in an interview with Politico. Quote, "If there is time, and if he does consult the secretary, it's advisory, just that," unquote. That's going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. There's more to it, folks. I just, can I just like scream? Can I just like pull my hair out, what's left of it? Because the insanity from the left, and I'm going to say this, okay? The Democratic Socialist and the Republican Fascist and the Progressive Party that they belong to are nothing but insane, warmongering, freedom-stripping morons that absolutely have no idea what the true purpose of America truly is. They lost their way many, many years ago, and they have no idea what they're doing, and they do not support their constituents, period. They're in it, in politics and in Washington, D.C., for their own selfish, self-centered agenda, period. So that's just the way it is, folks. Not because I say so, but because the evidence, the evidence and everything that they're doing is stacked against them. Everything that they're doing, everything that they're saying, everything that they hold so dear to their, blackened hearts is now out in the mainstream, and we know what these people are doing and what they're going to do because they're telling us specifically what they're going to do. Okay? These people are, they're the dumbest people on the face of the planet. Trump derangement syndrome. Yes, that is such a thing. No, we're not living in a freaking wackadoodle world. Oh, yeah, we are. Shia LaBeouf. Trump derangement syndrome. Campaign has raised $75,000 for a woman who flipped off the POTUS. Donors include Rosie O'Donnell. There's another wackadoodle. Steve Watson, Infowars.com, 14th November 2017. In the latest case of mass Trump derangement syndrome in action, a woman who was fired by her employer after being photographed flipping off the president has raised almost $75,000 on a GoFundMe campaign. Julie Briskman was pictured cycling close to Trump's motorcade last week and giving the president the middle finger. Her former employer, marketing firm Akima LLC, accused Briskman of violating its social media policy with the picture. Quote, they said, "We're separating from you," unquote, she told reporters, adding, quote, basically you cannot have lewd or obscene things in your social media, so they are calling flipping him off obscene, unquote. Last I checked, folks, businesses, I don't care if you're private or public, have to follow constitutional laws. Last I checked. I'm not an attorney, so you guys want to send me that information, that's fine. American Liberty Radio Network on Facebook. Okay? You have the freedom of expression. You can do whatever you want. I didn't know that was suspended when you clocked into work. I didn't know any of your protected rights were suspended when you clocked into your job. So now that you know that, America, you should start suing each and every single one of your employers for everything they have because they're in violation of your protected constitutional rights. Your God-given rights are protected under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. If those companies say, you can't do this, our policies are this, whatever, they're in violation of the Constitution. So start suing them. We have to make these private companies accountable and responsible for the actions against their workers, period. And by the way, unions aren't going to do that. Unions aren't going to have their lawyers go in there and serve them papers and saying, you're going to have to stop these policies. They're not going to do that. Why? Because they're making too much money off of their union members. Why would they want to upset the apple cart? You know what I'm saying? In a further interview with Megyn Kelly, Briskman said she does not regret the action. Well, I wouldn't either. Noting, quote, I think we have a big problem in this country, unquote. Quote, it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, unquote, Briskman said. Quote, lots of things were going through my mind about how disappointed I am with this administration. I didn't really have any other way to express my opinion. Let me say that again, folks. She said, and I quote, I didn't really have any other way to express my opinion to Mr. Trump, and so the finger was what I had at the time, unquote. The article goes on, folks. Read it on American Liberty Radio Podcast. Do you understand what's happening, folks? Years ago, back in the 80s, I remember a comic, stand-up comic by the name of Yakov Smirnov, who came from Russia. And literally in interviews, subsequently throughout the years, he would say, you cannot, and this is back in the 80s and 90s, you cannot talk about the president of Russia and not get, not disappear. You know what I mean? Now you can. But back then you couldn't. Okay. So it was, you either, made people laugh without, being political, or you wind up, in the gulag. So anyway, but in America, in the United States of America, we have this thing called freedom of expression, and we can do this without, it was without ramifications. Now it's, you get arrested, you get thrown into jail, you get fired from your job. You see where the Constitution has got thrown out the window, folks? Let me remind you, your private company that you work for has policies that suppress your freedom of speech, expression, and all of that, and that company is in violation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States of America, period, end of sentence. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't even claim to have any type of, knowledge of law, but you guys should go out in the United States of America, go look for pro bono attorneys or paralegals, and go look up the law, or go look up the law yourself. There's law libraries all over the place. Go look that up. Some attorneys give you free advice, so look that one up as well. But these companies in the United States of America that suppress your freedoms have to be sued. They have to be sued, period. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they do. I don't care if there's 5 employees or 500 employees. They have to be sued. Their policies are completely unconstitutional. And don't give me this fact. No. Don't insult my intelligence by saying prove it. I already have many years ago. Some of the companies I've worked for and some of the companies I knew outside of what I was doing are no longer around because people got sick and tired of being treated like crap. So you either, and you can go into your, and I've heard about this. I haven't done this, but I've heard this happening where employees would go into their supervisor's office, their boss's office, whatever, the person running the place, they'd throw down, these documents and say, you are in violation of my constitutional rights, your policies are wrong, and we want them to change now. And of course, they would get fired on the spot, they would sue the company would lose. That's the way it is. And I've heard this happening. Now, whether or not you want to do that and you find yourself being inconvenienced for a little bit for the sake of what's right and what's constitutional, if you don't want to do that, then continue to be the slave that they want you to be. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Every Democrat presidential candidate in the last 25 years had pedophile ties. FrontPageMag.com, 14th December 2017. It's on Infowars.com. And none have apologized or expressed regret about it. It was the cackle that cost her an election. The time was the 80s, and the First Lady of Arkansas was chatting with Roy Reid. Reid was a New York Times bigwig, a civil rights hero, and is currently a speaker for the Clinton School of Public Service. Back then, Reid was working on a profile of the Clintons for Esquire. The profile was never published. The tapes of the interviews were stowed at the University of Arkansas until they were dug up in 2014. And there's Hillary Clinton laughing on tape about how she saved a 12-year-old girl's rapist. Remember that one in the campaign? This 2016 campaign? Yeah. It says read more. I'm going to put that up on the American Liberty Radio podcast for all of you. So go check that out. Report. Attorney General Sessions mulls possibility of investigating Uranium-1 Clinton connection. Quote, it's amazing. Today we do an op-ed and suddenly the Department of Justice has had a come-to-Jesus moment, unquote. CNS News, 14th November 2017. Representative Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz want Attorney General Jeff Sessions to appoint a second special counsel to look into questions involving the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, former FBI Director James Comey, then the Russian dossier and the Uranium-1 deal. Later on Monday, Fox News and Washington Post reported that Sessions has asked Justice Department prosecutors to find out, quote, whether any matters merit the appointment of a special counsel, unquote. Sessions is scheduled to testify before Senate Judiciary Committee later today, which is Tuesday, and the possibility of appointing a special prosecutor is sure to come up then. So anyway, folks, Clintons should be in prison. That's just, I'm just going to stop right there because I'll start ranting and you don't want to hear that. If you go to American Liberty Radio Podcast, and you scroll down, you'll see every Democrat presidential candidate in the last 25 years had pedophile ties. You'll see the picture of former President Obama and former President Bill Clinton, and Obama looks really pissed. There's a lot of disdain on his face for Clinton. Go check it out, man. It's just, holy crap. That doesn't look good there. So, London cabbies to receive terror attack training, just part and parcel of living in Khan's utopia. The mayor of London is, yeah. I'm not even going to read that. I'm going to let you look at that and assess it and judge it for yourself. 14th November 2017. We'll put that on American Liberty Radio Podcast for you. I mean, we can sit here and speculate all day long. Think about, oh, well, you know, this is that and that. And blah, blah. No. Look at the facts, folks. Just look at the facts. Well, Apple better change the way they're doing things because hackers trick iPhone X Face ID with a $150 mask. It was even simpler than we ourselves had thought. That's what they said. Michael Snyder, end of theamericandream.com, 14th November 2017. Is America becoming a police state where churches can't feed the homeless and kids can't set up lemonade stands? These things are actually happening in America today. Let me just preface it by saying this. People in other countries and other news organizations know for a fact that the United States of America is a police state, period. What would you do if authorities ordered your church to stop feeding the homeless? And what would you do if your 5-year-old daughter was ordered to get a government permission before setting up a lemonade stand? Well, these things are actually happening in America today. With each passing day, America goes further down the road toward becoming a police state. No, it already is. Just yesterday, Michael Snyder says, I wrote about a young mother that was threatened with arrest in California for not properly vaccinating her children. We have entered a time when government bureaucrats are micromanaging all of our lives, and it is time for us to say enough is enough. The bigger government gets, the more oppressive it tends to become. But most people don't understand that there is an inverse relationship between liberty and the size of government. The more government grows, the less freedoms we have, and this is true on the federal, state, and local levels. For example, all over America, laws are being passed that make it illegal to feed the homeless. Every new law, rule, or regulation restricts our liberties and freedoms in some way. And in this case, these sorts of laws restrict our freedom to help our neighbors in need. There you go. I'm just going to put the rest of it up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. I told you before. I suggested that you do your own research, check things out, but every single company that you work for violates your protected constitutional rights, and they need to be held responsible. Period. That's just the way it is. Not because I said so, but because common sense rules. Well, it used to anyway. I just, I can get on businesses, I can push them to the limits, I can do everything I can from this end, but it's your responsibility if you want to continue to get a check from that company. That's entirely up to you. I may go into overdrive because I have some other things I want to talk about. Matter of fact, I'll give you another half hour. How's that? Maybe 15 minutes at the least? I don't know. But right now, I'm going to take a break. Don't go away. This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. The reality underneath the honesty. LiveTruthRadio.com. Check out Late Night in the Midlands with your host Michael Vera at LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to LateNightInTheMidlands.com. The world as we know it has been turned upside down. The leaders are faced with possible annihilation from their enemies. The United States is at the brink of a total collapse. This is the reality we live in. What can be done? The truth, the facts. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. Hey folks, this is American Liberty Radio Network right here on Spreaker.com and at AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. Your support for American Liberty Radio Network is vitally important, and you can contribute to American Liberty Radio Network at patreon.com/American Liberty Radio. Patreon.com/American Liberty Radio. Welcome, the 14th of November, 2017. This is the American Liberty Radio Network. So what's going on today, folks? What is happening? Okay. PJ Media is reporting. Let me go get that link for you. PJmedia.com. Rabid anti-Trumper arrested in California after threatening to go on a killing spree. Police recovered 9 loaded firearms. Have you ever heard of David Kenneth Smith? Chances are you haven't. He's a rabid anti-Trumper, thus his story didn't fit any convenient narrative. News of his arrest was treated as a local story with no national significance. However, if this freak had been a right-wing activist, he'd have been a front-page story in every paper in the country. Smith, 39, was arrested in Orange County, California on November 2nd following an investigation following the Joint Terrorism Task Force, or I should say involving the Joint Terrorism Task Force. He was charged with 1 felony count of making criminal threats after threatening a university professor through emails and posting threatening YouTube videos. In one, he talked about going on a killing spree. Police recovered 9 loaded firearms registered to Smith after his arrest, according to Orange County Sheriff's Department officials. On November 1st, Smith allegedly began exchanging emails with an instructor at Soka University in Aliso Viejo, about disciplinary actions taken against him for smoking marijuana when he attended the university in 2008. It says, read more. So I'm going to put this on American Liberty Radio Podcast. American Liberty Radio Podcast on Facebook is where you need to go to find these articles that I am posting for you. And, so that's where you need to go. Or I plan on, I'm building a new backup site. So that'll be coming, up. More news about that later. So anyway, let's go over here. Trump wrapping up Asia tour, dominated by North Korea and trade. VOA News. .com is reporting this. It's on Infowars.com. 13th of November, 2017. Trump wrapping up Asian tour dominated by North Korea trade. Trump to make a major announcement once he returns to D.C. President Trump is wrapping up a 12-day, 5-nation tour of Asia dominated by talks on North Korea nuclear threat and bolstering trade. After talks in Manila on Monday with the prime ministers of Australia and Japan, Trump promised to make a quote-unquote major statement on North Korea and trade when he returns to Washington this week, but he offered no details. Trump's meeting with Australia's Malcolm Turnbull and Japan's Shinzo Abe underscored the growing relationship between the three nations in the face of regional security issues. The top concerns include North Korea's nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles program, or ballistic missile programs, and countering China's increasingly assertive maritime territorial claims. Quote, the key for us is to ensure very close trilateral cooperation as to bring peace and stability on the ground, unquote, said the Japanese leader who has been displaying a united front against North Korea with Trump. Quote, we've got the same values and the same focus on assuring that the North Korean regime comes to its senses and stops its reckless provocation and threats of conflict in our region, unquote, Turnbull said. Quote, peace and stability have underpinned the prosperity of billions of people over many decades, and we're going to work together to ensure we maintain it, unquote. I'm going to put this on American Liberty Radio Podcast. So anyway, I really don't have an opinion on that because I'm going to wait till President Trump gets back and hear what he has to say. So, there's no opinion on that one right now. So anyway, let's go here. Apple needs to change a whole lot of what they do because, things like this. Michael Thalin, Infowars.com, 13th of November, 2017. Hackers trick iPhone X Face ID with a $150 mask. Quote, it's even simpler than we ourselves had thought, unquote. Security researchers have reportedly developed a mask capable of breaking the Face ID authentication, if I can speak, feature on Apple's recently released iPhone X. Vietnamese security firm Bacov announced in a blog post Friday that the mask comprised of 3D printed plastic, makeup, silicone, and printed photos was able to trick an iPhone X into unlocking just 1 week after the device's release. Costing $150 to produce, researchers say the simplistic mask only features aspects of the face necessary to fool the phone's facial recognition: a silicone nose, images of eyes and lips printed on paper, and a 3D printed frame of the test subject's face. Baca, which called Face ID an ineffective security measure, did admit, however, that producing such a mask required extensive access to a user's face. An artist was used to properly sculpt the nose, while sophisticated scanning software was utilized to ensure the accuracy of the face's shape. Apple stated during a presentation last September that special effects artists had been tasked to design numerous masks during Face ID development in an attempt to protect against the very hack carried out by Bacov. Guess what? The iPhone X is a failure in that department. This is going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. I know people that can break into the phone itself, and, make the phone do whatever the user wants it to do. Paul Joseph Watson, Infowars.com, 13th of November, 2017. Thank you, Paul Joseph Watson. Leftist who wanted to kill first responders found with arsenal of explosives. Christopher Langer supported anarchist Occupy Wall Street groups. 31-year-old Christopher Langer was busted by police after he told his parents during an argument that he had placed explosive substances in a grenade. A 13-hour investigation subsequently revealed a huge cache of potentially explosive materials, booby traps, grenades, and numerous bottles of Langer's own urine. The chemicals included substances used in a 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. According to Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood, Langer was, quote, one step from creating a weapon of mass destruction, unquote, adding that the, quote, domestic violence call probably saved us from making national and international news, unquote. Langer had also extensively researched bomb making by downloading Army manuals on explosives. He reportedly wanted to, quote-unquote, get even by harming first responders despite the fact they had helped him in the past as a result of drug abuse incidences. And even the left-wing Raw Story website acknowledges, quote, Langer had what appears to be the Guy Fawkes mask favored by left-wing and anarchist demonstrators, and his frequently used Facebook page suggests support of Occupy Wall Street and anonymous activism, unquote. Screenshots from Langer's Facebook page reveal his interest in the Resist movement, which since last year has become a focal point for anti-Trump activism. So there you go. So what do you say? You know, I mean, how does someone like that get access to, you know, not him per se, but how does somebody like that get access to explosives, get access to other chemicals, you know, that would provide him with the ingredients to develop a weapon of mass destruction? How does he do that? And he's just making the left-wing side of things or the anti-Trumpers look bad. Not that they aren't already, but he's making them look bad by doing stuff like this. Chances are he was on drugs, by the way. Probably uptake inhibitors or whatever it is. Any type of serial bomber, serial killer, serial rapist, any type of person like that, and this is just my unprofessional medical opinion, these people are on some sort of ADD medication or some sort of medication to suppress certain areas of their brain or, you know, something like that. And when you look at most of those people, you'll find that that is true. Most people that young are either hell-bent on destroying any type of, and this is true with the right and the left and everybody in between, you can look at these people and you can know just right offhand these people are dedicated to ruining any semblance of peace, freedom, liberty, and security in this nation, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter, okay? So when you look at these people, and when you read articles like this, the question should come to mind is, how the hell did he get all this stuff? And where did he get the money to get all this stuff? Chances are you're going to find that he has a criminal record of breaking and entering and theft and you know, small-time stuff that he gets probation for. You know? I mean, it boggles my mind. Where do these people get this stuff? You know what I'm saying? Anti-white racism on the rise in America by Mark Dice. It's a video. It's on Infowars.com. I will put that on American Liberty Radio Podcast on Facebook. Excuse me. Ron Paul, former senator and presidential candidate. Education scholarship tax credits help children and advance liberty by increasing competition. Education scholarship tax credits encourage government-run schools to improve, says Paul. One thing we need to do is get rid of government-run schools. You want to improve education? Get rid of government-run schools. Shutting down the Department of Education and returning control to the of the education dollar to the American people is the key to improving education. The best way to put the people in charge of education is by shutting down all unconstitutional bureaucracies, repealing the 16th Amendment, and ending the Federal Reserve's money monopoly. There you go. Enough said. I'm putting that on American Liberty Radio Podcast. It's just, I told you. There you go. It's right there in the subheading. You know, I just, you know, when I'm right, I'm right, and people better get used to it. So anyway, here's something that is really, really stupid. Here is something that is really stupid from the 13th of November 2017 by Jamie White at Infowars.com. Washington Post accuses Drudge of Russian collusion for linking to Infowars. Left-wing paper suggests Matt Drudge is a Russian agent. By the way, that's been totally debunked. Washington Post wrote an article denouncing the Drudge Report for having linked to Infowars on a regular basis during the 2016 election cycle. The article titled, "One of the busiest websites in the U.S. is in the 2016 regularly linked to Russia propaganda," unquote, begins explaining just how powerful and highly trafficked Drudge Report truly is. I mean, there's a lot of quotes there. I'm not going to go through it. I'm just going to let you read the rest of that at American Liberty Radio Podcast on Facebook. I got a bunch of stuff on American Liberty Radio Network on Facebook as well. And let's go there before I get out of here. Seeing all these people that just absolutely don't know anything is just incredible. MSM, the mainstream propagandist, promoting, quote, gun confiscation orders as solution to mass shootings. I talked about that yesterday on the podcast. Time magazine runs vile hit piece against RFK Jr. for daring to tell the truth about mercury in vaccines. This is going on American Liberty Radio. I'm going to share that on American Liberty Radio Podcast as well. Vault 7 bombshell just vindicated every conspiracy theorist. The CIA can spy on anyone through TVs, iPhones, smartphones, and Windows PCs. Okay? There you go. That's going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast as well. Okay? I'm going to say this before getting out of here. You people need to take a look at what's going on around you and pay attention to who is perpetrating all of it. Okay? All of it. I don't give a crap if you see the vice president shaking hands with a known communist. You got to pay attention to it. I don't care if the president himself is rescuing a cat out of a tree. You got to pay attention to it. There are certain things in life that you just have to say, wait a minute, something's wrong here, and we have to pay attention to it. And if you're not paying attention, something's wrong with you. There are a lot of things I want to do with this network. And like I said, I'm creating a new backup site. Not that the AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com site isn't any good. That's the main backup site, but I'm creating another one. A little more easily, navigate, you can navigate easily with it, and easier, excuse me, my English teacher would roll over in her grave. I'm creating a backup site which you can use in a much more efficient manner. It's going to be easier to navigate and all that. So, That's one of the things I'm doing here at the network. To contribute to these changes, if you want, you can go to patreon.com/American Liberty Radio and contribute a couple of bucks there and help keep the lights on around here. If you are so inclined to do so. So I think I got time for a couple of more articles. Let me take a look. Yeah, it looks like I got a few more minutes anyway. I don't. New. A few good men? No, just warm bodies. To fill recruitment goals, the Army will accept people who are seriously mentally ill, self-mutilate, or have bipolar disorder. No problem. Here's your gun. Insane. Army now accepting mentally ill to fill recruitment goals. Mentally unstable Americans can now be trained to kill by the government. That's going up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. Actually, that's going up on American Liberty Radio Network. If I can get there. There we go. It's going up on American Liberty Radio Network. Excuse me. And it's going up on the main timeline. So anyway, there you go. I just see, I don't know. I don't know, folks. Congressman warns of plan to carry out a coup d'etat against Trump and American voters. The globalists in the deep state want to take out Trump. Roger Stone exposes CIA plan to set up General Flynn. The deep state continues attacking the Trump administration. Breaking, Democrats purge Clintons in desperate attempt to survive. Getting rid of the Clintons is in the best interest of the left. Yes. There's just, I mean, I know for a fact that certain people are going to say, Clinton's not that bad. Really? Really? Well, why is the left trying to carry out a coup d'etat against the Trump administration and the American voters? It's because they want total, complete power and control over everybody and everything. They don't want conservatives to have a voice. No way. They want to shut them down. That's their goal. That's in their papers, folks. Go look at the things they write. That's just, I mean, seriously. It's right there. It's what they do. It's what they know. It's what they want to do. I scratch my head every time I hear anything about the Clintons because I'm wondering, why the hell aren't they in jail yet? Why aren't they arrested, charged with treason, charged with crimes against humanity, and in prison? Well, I know why. It's because the media would somehow spin it to say, well, the Republicans did it. It's the Republicans' fault. No, it's no fault of their own. I should say this. It is everything to do with the Clintons, and it's their problem, and it's their fault. Period. And we need to arrest former President Obama, too, for the acts of treason against this country and the violation of his oath of office. Can we get him on that at least? I mean, so many things, so many people think that they know how certain things should work. Certain people, certain groups, certain political people think that they know how things should work. The voice of the people will not be silenced. The power of the people will increase because the people know the purpose of America. How much simpler can it be? How much simpler can it be? If people want things done, they have to go get it done. Don't depend on the government. Don't depend on anything other than yourself. When you look at all the criminal activity coming out of the Clinton campaign and coming out of the Clinton cabal and the Clinton Foundation and many number of affiliates associated with them, my question is why haven't they been arrested yet? Why are they still walking free today? Why? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know how. If the left is so quote unquote organized that they can rally hundreds of people together, why isn't the right doing it? Why aren't we, the people who are not associated with any political party whatsoever, why are we not out in the city streets? Why not? I think there's a bunch of cowards in the Patriot movement. I think there's a bunch of people who don't want to be inconvenienced because they got to go to work. If you don't have a free America, and if you're not free to do the things you have to do and follow your own conscience to make your own decisions, and you are enslaved by the political talking points of the politicians and indoctrinated by the mainstream propagandists of your media, you got a bigger problem than getting to work. If you can't understand just how manipulated you are, there's something wrong with you. And if we look out at the landscape of we the people, we're seeing a lot of them who are a bunch of cowards. Why is it in other countries people get so fed up, they say enough is enough, and they go out and start, defending themselves against the military that walks through their streets, suppressing them and their God-given rights? Why do you think they aren't allowing it anymore? The Arab Spring, remember that a few years back? Remember Tunisia? Remember Egypt? Remember Cairo? How about just recently Venezuela collapsed because, the government was so corrupt that the people weren't able to do anything to combat it or defend themselves against it. So the government within itself, corrupted itself and fell apart. I mean, pretty much. So we, the people, have to stand up and take matters into our own hands. We can't depend on anybody else but ourselves, period. That's just the way it is. So, why not? Yes, if that means going out into the streets, carrying signs, showing the truth of the Democrats and the Republicans and the Progressive Party, go right ahead. But do it legally and non-violently, and you'll make a bigger impact. So, This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.weebly.com. If you want to support American Liberty Radio Network, please do. I would appreciate it. Patreon.com/American Liberty Radio Network. This is the 14th of November, 2017. This is American Liberty Radio Network, sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS.